And I'm Kenny McIntosh. We're back here with one of the challengers for this Sunday at NXT TakeOver Wednesday. I'm sure she's going to walk out the NXT Women's Champion. There's no ifs about it. It's Toni Storm. Toni, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I like that intro. That's perfect.
Yeah, I've been working on it all day. It's been most of the morning just coming up the intro. I'm so excited to talk to you though because if we look to last year, you're in NXT UK and then the pandemic hits and we're all kind of like, what's going on? And for like 6 months, you can't really do anything because you can't go to the States. You can't really do much in the UK in terms of wrestling shows. How did you kind of hear about it all and how did you cope and kind of keep your head in the game?
Oh, it's been a wild. Last year was insane. I mean, not just for me, but for everyone. But for me, it was, I was meant to move to America end of March. And then a week before I was set to go, Trump came up and cut all travel restrictions. I mean, fair enough, but just terrible timing for me. Mm-hmm. And then I luckily I could stay in my apartment and I waited out a little longer. And then in May, WWE were like, yeah, it's you good to go, green light. So I packed up all my stuff, got rid of my apartment, went all the way to London to get on the flight. And then there was issues with border control and I couldn't get in. So long story short, I got stuck in London for about 3 or 4 months. So it's been a crazy journey just getting here. It's been insane, but I'm here now.
You're here now. We can relax. I mean, you kind of jumped over to NXT TV in the US in October, but I guess, you said you were supposed to move over in March. Were we supposed to see you sooner? Did the pandemic kind of stop you being on NXT TV sooner?
Yeah, I think I was meant to be there like quite a few months sooner, but obviously I got stuck and obviously the UK, it's still in a terrible state now pandemic wise, but it was terrible back then. So we didn't know what was happening with NXT UK either. I was just kind of in between like, oh, I don't know. I was living each day not knowing what was going to happen or when I was going to leave. So it was crazy time. But yeah, then it took me until October.
And then when you finally debut on NXT TV as a regular, what was that like for you? Because I mean, just from what you've said there's so much more that's gone into that moment happening than maybe people on TV realized.
Yeah, it was crazy because I had spent so long with my prime focus being just get to America, set up your life over there, stop living on people's couches, that was the forefront of my mind. And then I got there and was like, oh my God, I haven't wrestled in so long. And I just, I was nervous going into it because it'd been so long since I had trained, since I had been in the ring, done a match. So luckily, like it all came back to me, but it's been crazy. Since I started when I was 13, I've never had that much time off since I started. So it was very different and kind of foreign for me to be like kind of rusty like that. I was like, oh my God, here I am at it again. But yeah, I finally dusted off the cobwebs and I'm feeling a lot better now, which is perfect timing for TakeOver.
And I mean, and then the other thing was when you came back in October, I mean, you then became a villain for the first time that we've seen you in WWE. Talk a little bit about that, about, the decision to make you a villain and how you found that so far.
To be honest, I feel like I'm more myself than I ever have been. I feel a lot better just not caring and just being me. It's a lot easier to get people to dislike you than like you. It's a lot less effort, which is good because it just helps with my focus going forward. And yeah, I think it's going to be more entertaining for anyone, if anything.
And how you because being in the Capitol Wrestling Center as well, there are a small group of people there who you can kind of bounce off of a little bit. So I'm guessing for doing something new like being a villain, that's kind of perfect because you can see what's working.
Yeah, I'm grateful that we've got people in the building. It's awesome. I think the Royal Rumble just recently was the first ever empty arena I have ever done. So I was lucky enough to dodge all the empty arena shows. And then, but NXT, it's great. I love that there's people there because that's why I do this at the end of the day, is to perform in front of people. And yeah, it's cool having people in it. It at least feels a little bit normal, even though they're locked away in their little pods with their masks on. Who would have thought we would ever see the day that happened? But here we are.
Here we are. And then, you come back, you're a villain, and you're in War Games. And, how did you find that you were going to be in War Games, and how much different was it kind of from what you maybe expected it was going to feel like afterwards to have done a War Games match?
Yeah, I mean, I guess after taking all that time off during the pandemic and then being in a massive steel cage with 2 rings and weapons everywhere, it was quite like a shock physically, because I got used to not being hit with weapons and stuff. So, yeah, it was cool though, and I think it helped me get back into the swing of things a lot smoother. It was so much fun. I'm so glad that I got to have that kind of match, and I hope I'm in the next one because it's great, and we won. So,
where does War Games kind of rate for you in terms of all you've had so many matches, but is War Games kind of up there now for you?
Yeah, I would say so. Because I feel like I was in a match with just the greatest that the world has to offer as far as women go. So it was a big deal for me. I loved every second of it, even though it was painful as hell. Even though getting hit with a kendo stick is not fun, but at the end of the day, I guess I enjoyed it. It was cool.
Io Shirai, she certainly made an impact in that match with that, drop with the bin from the top. It was crazy. But and you're going to be facing her this Sunday in the triple threat. But you faced her before at the Mae Young Classic finals at Evolution. What are your memories of that match? You won it. You won the Mae Young Classic, and it was at the first ever Evolution pay-per-view. Do you have any memories of that day?
I do. That was probably the most emotional day that I had ever had in my entire career. I think it really put me on the map that night, and ever since things have been just smooth sailing, and that was the momentum that I needed to get myself to where I am now. And it's cool going into TakeOver knowing that I know exactly how to beat Io and I know everything about her, and it fills me with confidence. It's good.
And we saw a lot of people who were on the Evolution card who were sort of like, they either had a photo with one of the legends or they were talking to them. Was there any weird interactions for you that you got to talk to somebody who you'd kind of watched growing up and now you're in the locker room with them?
Yeah, the whole night was crazy because if I remember correctly, my match with Io was on after the Battle Royal, and that's where they brought back like everyone that I grew up watching. So I'm stood there waiting to go out and do this match, and just one after the other, it's just one person after the other that I grew up watching. It was really surreal to me. I never really been in that environment before. So yeah, I was like, wow, like here I am, like I finally getting to where I want to be. So I think Evolution was very special to me, and it's been good ever since.
And how do you feel about a second Evolution pay-per-view? Is that something that needs to happen? Would you like to see it happen?
I would love it, and I think it will. And yeah, I think it's important that we keep the momentum going for this women's revolution. Like it's really important to me. It's the best thing to ever happen to my career. So I'm sure in the future there will be another one, no doubt.
And you mentioned you've been doing this since you were 13. Who were your influences kind of getting into wrestling while you were in wrestling? Who kind of shaped your sort of ideas?
I'd say Shawn Michaels was number one. I don't think there's anyone better. I mean, obviously, like I was a fan of so many. I was a huge Jeff Hardy, John Cena, Mickey James, Trish. I was a huge fan, but I think Shawn Michaels shaped. I watch him a lot. Like still to this day, I watch a lot of his old matches and just study because I think he's the greatest of all time. And that's exactly how I want to be. I want hopefully in the future one day people look at me and say the same. So he's very inspirational. He's very motivating, and it's cool that he's on the NXT brand helping us and teaching us and coaching us. He's definitely like my number one inspiration.
And you had some fun on Instagram recently where you put a photo up kind of dedicating your boots to Cactus Jack with Mick Foley, and he was quite taken with that. Was he someone again who, when you were growing up, Mick Foley was somebody who you looked up to?
Definitely. I remember when I was about 12, I begged my mom, and this was hard to get from Australia. I begged my mom for the Hardcore Diaries. It had just come out and he was promoting it on Raw, and I was like, Mom, I need to read this book. I need to learn everything about wrestling, and it's in this book. So we ordered it in special, and so I would sit there and I'd read that book, and I was kind of a little wrestling geek at that age. I still am now, but yeah, he was definitely like one of the people that was a huge inspiration, and he had the coolest boots of all time. I remember always thinking that, and I was like, why am I not wearing boots like that? So I'm so glad that he appreciated it and he approved of it, because that meant a lot to me.
And yeah, I was thinking, obviously, we saw you in the Royal Rumble this year and we saw you in the Royal Rumble last year as well. And you're in this unique position where you've been in 2 Royal Rumbles. The first one you were in was in the stadium, and the second one that you were in was in the Thunderdome. What were the biggest differences in how you kind of prepare for doing it with those very, different circumstances?
It's from one extreme to the next. I found, I think my last one, the very first one I did, was in front of about 55,000 people, and I just couldn't get over it. And then this time I went out there and there was nobody, and I was like, oh my God, what a change. I can't believe this is the same match. With this one, I didn't have any time to prepare, to be honest. I was initially just there as a backup in case anyone couldn't do it. And then sure enough, the day before, I get a phone call saying you're in it. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't think this would happen. So to be honest, I kind of enjoyed how spontaneous it was, and how I didn't have to sit there and anticipate and psych myself out. I'm glad that it was sprung on me, because then I didn't sit there all week long like, oh God, the Royal Rumble is coming up. Oh no, I had no time to prepare, and I kind of enjoyed that. So yeah, just don't tell me about anything I got coming up.
Just tell you the day before and you'll be better. Well, somebody who did really well in the Royal Rumble this year was obviously Rhea Ripley, who you go way back with, and it seems like people from down under are just kind of taking over WWE, and it's just as bad as the Scots doing it. But with Rhea Ripley, people are kind of wondering what she's going to be doing next, and I think people want to see her on Raw or SmackDown. Can you talk a little bit about Rhea and how much momentum she's got right now, especially after that Royal Rumble performance?
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of her, but I wish her all the best in whatever happens with her. As much as I'm not a fan, I'm proud that we have an Australian doing so well, and she represents Australia exactly the way it should be represented, which is perfect. So in that sense, I like her, but in everything else, can't stand her.
And she got down to the final 2 with Bianca Belair, and Bianca's now got that decision of Asuka or Sasha Banks. So if you were in that position and you had won the Rumble and you had the choice of Asuka and Sasha Banks this year at WrestleMania, who would you go for and why?
That is so hard, because those are just the 2 best options of all time. Like, that's incredible, but probably, oh my God, I wouldn't know what to do. That's like a tough situation for her to be in. The best tough situation. I guess Sasha. Yeah, I think that would be cool. Like, that's a tough one though. That's a very, yeah.
And then
fantastic.
The last thing I was going to ask you was, obviously Natalya has kind of vocally said that she wants to have a match with you. She's going to speak to Vince to try and see if she can get a match organized. Natalya, I guess, is someone who has kind of paved the way for a lot of women today. How cool would it be to kind of get in there with Natalya and do something?
Amazing. That would be a dream come true, because she's obviously someone that I've watched for so many years, one of the people that inspired me to be here in the first place. So for her to just come out and say that she wants to have a match with me is a huge deal for me, and I think that would help elevate me a lot, and she could teach me a lot from just one match. But I have a lot of respect for Natalya. I think she's one of the greatest, and whenever I'm backstage and she's there, I feel really taken care of. She's a locker room leader, and she's just a fantastic human. So just even outside of wrestling, she's just a very good person, and it means a lot for her to say those things about me.
Well, Sunday you've got the big triple threat with Io and Mercedes Martinez. A lot of people say that the NXT women's division is the best women's division in the world. Is that kind of like a pressure for people to say things like that, or is that kind of just backing up the hard work that you guys are doing?
I think it's a bit of both, but yeah, I think it's deserved. I cannot think of a better group of women. I think, like, in NXT, it's incredible how it's just such a badass division. It really is, like, just everyone all together all at once. It's unreal. It's not like that anywhere else, and it's just everyone's worked so hard to be where they are now. So it's obviously I'm the best, but it is a huge honor to be a part of a locker room so strong like that and so badass. It's so good.
Well, listen, I would say best of luck, but you don't need it. You're going to be the women's champion as of Monday, so
of course
we don't need to give you good luck. But Toni, thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Nice speaking to you.